Ever since I can remember, there's been both a lot of words spoken and very little actually said about the concept of the final girl. It used to be like a secret handshake among hardcore horror fans. Just by using the words final girl, you were signaling the intensity of your fandom, as well as acknowledging that the person you were speaking to was also in that same club. Casual moviegoers just didn't know what it meant, though I can't imagine it would have been very difficult for them to figure it out. But what is the final girl archetype all about from a storytelling point of view? Best probably to start by defining the traditional final girl. She was young, smarter than the other female characters, attractive but never the most attractive in the cast. In fact, watch an old slasher movie and play this little game. Picking out the survivor can be as simple as identifying the second hottest girl. The model actress, hired purely for her looks? No, she's toast. But the really cute girl that's also the best actress in the film? Yep, she's going to make it. Lots has been made about the final girl being a virginal figure. This observation isn't always supported by every example, but the general concept of a girl with more traditional values than her friends actually plays out pretty well. Laurie Strode is the one without a boyfriend. Alice Hardy hesitates while playing strip Monopoly. Sally evidently invited her loser brother Franklin along for the road trip with her friends, something only the nicest sister in the world would have done. So, what's all this building towards? Well, you can argue that it's just a formula for a successful exploitation movie. Someone's got to survive, right? And the main audience for horror movies, until recently anyway, has been teenage boys. Having the super hot best friend character take off her clothes will keep the boys happy, while maintaining a more puritanical stance of having the almost as cute main character survive because she keeps her clothes on. If you squint, and a whole lot of horror commentators have been doing a lot of squinting over the years, you can kind of see it, but it's wrong. Horror movies are dramas about mortality and morality, but that doesn't mean there's a direct line drawn between the two. The relationship is more complex. There are more foundational storytelling concepts at work here. For instance, you remember that I said that you could play a game to identify the final girl by finding the second hottest actress in the cast. Well, beauty is subjective, so that's always a wobbly argument. But more importantly, there's an easier way. Which female character has the most screen time? You know, the one who has scenes with just her going about her day? Yeah, that's her. The truth is, once horror movies left European castles and fog-shrouded moors behind and set the stories in normal suburban towns and familiar summer camps, there just really wasn't much to do with the characters besides the mechanics of setting them up to knock them down. Let's be honest, watching normal teenagers go about their day is just not that entertaining. But add some sex comedy humor and a few flashes of skin, and you might just fill out the runtime. Generally, that means giving a line or two of dialogue to each character to give them some sense of identity. The survivor gets to have conversations with adult characters who come and go, but the body count filler group of friends, they almost never get more attention from the adults, besides maybe a quick reprimand. Again, ask why. The answer is so simple that it's tempting to distrust it, but trust Occam's razor here. The reason that only the final girl gets to have dialogue, and by extension, at least a modest bit of characterization, is because it's a horror movie. Horror movies are about morality and mortality, but they're sold on the visceral thrills that those subjects provide. No ancient Roman bought a ticket to the Colosseum to ponder the deeper social meaning of gladiatorial spectacle. No, they wanted to watch a guy in a loincloth fight a tiger with a wooden sword. That there is a deeper subject to be explored is incidental to why the horror movie exists. It's made to sell tickets, so giving deeper characterizations to the supporting cast of a horror film is a waste of time. Many folks feel that Terrifier 2 is much too long for a slasher film. They're not complaining that there's just too much violence and gore, are they? A final girl is definitionally the main character of the drama, the protagonist, at least how we used to define that word before people started the bullshit of calling Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees a protagonist, which basically deflates story structure down to the depth of a dead baby joke. Main characters are the ones with an arc of some sort, Sometimes an arc doesn't change who a character is fundamentally, but it always provides clarity to a weakness or simplifies a complex situation. Um, to achieve a story arc, the main character needs an obstacle to overcome. This can take the form of a noun, a person, place, or thing. It can be a mask wearing psychopath, a sinking luxury liner, or even something like mental illness. The villain of a piece should be the personification of the obstacle, not the obstacle itself. Let me show how a poorly realized idea can be fixed by using an example you all know. In the eighth Friday the 13th film, the final girl cannot swim and is deathly afraid of water. We see flashbacks of her nearly drowning as a child. The shot of Jason pulling her under doesn't match up to the timeline of the series, but that's for a good reason. Jason didn't attack her literally as a child. No, visually we are being told to equate her fear of drowning with Jason. Good so far, if a little sloppy in the final product. A prank halfway through the film has her knocked into the ocean and saved from drowning by her boyfriend. This is not an incidental moment. At that point, she needs to be saved. In the end of the movie, she's in a sewer tunnel that's filling with liquid toxic waste. It's not literal toxic waste, by the way, but her fear itself made manifest. But whatever, Jason Takes Manhattan is a case study in how to fuck up good ideas. It's not. Where the movie fails is that it doesn't conclude with Rennie mustering up the will to swim to safety. Instead, she hugs a metal ladder. How much more satisfying would it have been to allow her to defeat her real world fear? Jason melting away beneath her would have meant something. Villains in horror movies aren't necessarily just ciphers, but that's their main role. Final girls have more character, at least nominally, but that's their role as well. If a final girl fails as a point of view character, the movie probably just won't work. That means we must see ourselves in her. As I've said, most of the traditional audience for a slasher movie is young men, so it might seem counterintuitive to expect teen boys to superimpose themselves onto college-age girls, but because of the competitive nature of budding masculinity, it's actually easier than to compete with an idealized man on screen. Basically, young male viewers are asked to see an ideal girlfriend in the final girl. Not a hot girl that wouldn't give you the time of day, but the very cute girl you'd feel blessed to have on your arm. And you can see how we're finally getting around to the issue of the virginal stereotype, aren't you? It's not a question of sexual morality as much as it is the desire of the audience to root for a girl you can see as your girlfriend or your best friend or your sibling, the girl who doesn't sleep around, the one who may be a little shy or awkward. Lori, not Linda. Ginny, not Terry. Nancy, not Tina. Horror movies are about morality and mortality, but they're not prescriptive. The body count thriller isn't telling you how to live your life. It's reflecting our own values and then taking things to a grim fairy tale or EC Comics resolution. This tradition goes all the way back to urban legends about lovers' lanes and escaped lunatics with hooks for hands and babysitters getting prank phone calls that come from inside the house. The final girl archetype is explicitly meant to provide a narrative with a through line. Without them, these movies devolve into random scenes of violence without any rising stakes. In order for us to become more and more invested in the rudimentary drama unfolding, we need to have some basic connection to the central character. The stereotype that has evolved comes not from design, but necessity. And these are the types of characters that all audience members, girls and boys, men and women, young and old, can rally behind most easily.